Let's take a look now at some of the switch stuff I did. So I have a friend of mine that's getting into this hobby, and I'm putting together a starter set for him, and I had him pick out a layout design that he wants, and the layout design he chose needs 2 switches. So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm refurbishing 2 spare switches that I have. The one on the left is one that I just completed. The one on the right I have not yet tackled. But as you can see, you can bring these things back with some TLC to where they both function and look fairly decent. Obviously, they're still used. But one of the things that I found with this one was the switch points, and I don't know how this happens, but they had actually gotten bent. So this end was fine in terms of level with the rails, but that end was sticking up about a 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch above the rail head, which obviously that's going to cause no end of problems. So sometimes when you're refurbishing these things, you've got to take some time to figure out, what's going on with them. The other thing then is I took some time to adjust the switch mechanism to get it to actually throw, because neither one of these would throw at all before I started. So I'll go ahead and I'll videotape doing this one. I know I've showed this before, but it's kind of helpful, I think, to see, and I'll do a high-speed one, so it won't take much time, but I think you might enjoy seeing, before and after kind of thing. All right, when I'm looking to kind of maintenance or clean up a switch that's in some sort of disrepair, there are several things that I want to take a look at. The first thing I want to do is I want to apply some power to it. And you want to set your positive or negative on the black, and then alternate the other wire between the red and the green. That'll throw the mechanism back and forth, the solenoid, and you can see if it's got any life at all or if the solenoid's burned out. So that's always the first thing I do, because I need to know kind of where I'm starting. The next thing I want to do is just do a general inspection of what the piece looks like on the front and back. As you can see, this has the Fantech clips on it. So a little different than the screw ones, but I just cleaned up its mate, so I think this will be interesting. I noticed that this particular rail has quite a bit of rust on it. So I think we'll do an experiment here a little bit to see how well this cleans up, but I think it'll be okay. And then I want to check for screws. Both the screws are here. All the screws are present on the back. So those are indications that this should be a good project. Obviously, it's very dirty. So now the next thing I want to do is get my tools around. I'm going to need a good supply of Q-tips. I'm going to want some WD-40. I'm going to want some CRC 226. I'm going to need a punch. I'm going to need a hammer. I'll need a small screwdriver, and of course a transformer so that I can check for power. And then I'll also need a Dremel tool, and most often I use one of these thin wire metal steel brushes. And depending on what the project entails, there may be different variations of this particular brush. And because of the way this one looks, I may need to go to a little different type of brush, but we'll see. And so now, having kind of seen the bits and pieces I use, and of course there'll be a rag or two involved, I'm gonna go ahead and get going on this. I'm gonna run it in high speed, since you've seen me redo switches in the past. But for those of you that are new to the channel, I'll put a link to the other switch repairs I've done. That'll slow them down a little bit so you can get more into the nitty-gritty. But for those of you that enjoy seeing something transformed, we're going to run this in high speed. So here we go. I also almost forgot. The other thing you want to do with switches before you get too far in them is you want to take a look at your points. The sister to this one, I didn't notice it earlier, but once I reassembled it after cleaning, I had this piece was actually bent, and so this end was jockeyed up, and so you had a pretty big gap height wise on this end, which would have meant any wheels trying to go over the switch were going to really have to jump up, and that was going to lead to derailments and poor performance. So that's something to take a look at. Sometimes there's debris and whatnot under these that can lead to them not being in the right alignment. But you want to check down here, do the points snug up nice and tight to the rails? They do. Is the mechanism fairly free in movement? It is. And also you want to check this piece, this plastic frog, to see if it's got any extra wear, because sometimes you'll get one of these where this tip will be, worn down pretty good, and that can lead to derailment. So those are some just general inspections you want to do your switches, whether they're in this kind of condition or in better condition, just to make sure they're functional for you. And there we have it. 2 switches ready to go back into service.